Lavoie for Rebel News, and today I'm speaking with Josh Udall, host of the Elevate podcast and one of the speakers at the United Against Extremism conference held last Sunday in Toronto. Josh is known for his bold political commentary and has gained significant traction in Canada's political discourse. His story came into the spotlight when he publicly confronted Khalistani extremists on the ground, an act that led to real consequences and threats from violent actors. In our interview, we touched on a range of important issues, particularly the growing challenges of online extremism and consequences of mass immigration on Canada society. Let's hear what he has to say.
You're coming from the side of, having a YouTube show where, it's nice to have your own show, nice to do your own thing, independent media, you talk about whatever you want, but you're still a slave to an algorithm if you want to get views. So, for example, when it comes to elements of national security on the media side, you utter the words Israel. You utter the words Hamas. You utter the words anything about conflict between those two countries, or Palestine and those two countries. Algorithm says, nah, you're going way down in the algorithm. We're not talking about that.
So way it started was weird. Our initial Elevate podcast show was similar to really anything. We just did like a show once a week, hour and a half, me and my friend talking Canadian politics and things that are happening around the country, whatever. And that was like the second evolution of the show in general. And so we saw this whole Khalistani vote, or I would say Khalistani, it was a vote to separate Punjab from India, and they were doing some type of vote that was taking place in BC and also in Alberta to have that happen. And so it was interesting. I was like, hey, why are they doing that here was my first question. And that was it. It was just a question. Like, why is that happening here? That's an Indian issue. That's a Punjab. Like, why is that vote happening in Canada? That seemed odd. And then the second thing was seeing the people on the ground there who are voting, who are waving these yellow flags, yelling death to India. And we're just like, I don't really care who you are. Wishing death to any country is not a Canadian value. So that seemed weird. And so we just posted that out. We just posted that out, covered the story, asked the question, and then boom, they came for us really hard, and a lot of terrible things were being said in our comment sections. And I was like, that's crazy. My co-host got some heat at work, and he's like had to leave the show because of it. And so I was like, oh, okay. So it was a co-host, him and I. And then it was just me.
Just before you go on, is the only way that the reason why we're making sure those things stay low, we don't talk about those things, because if you start getting that noise going, you start getting people understanding and seeing it, then it starts putting pressure on them and increasing that political will to get those things going. If you can make sure that pressure isn't on the politicians, political will never exist, and those things will never be addressed. So you can continue on with the lack of national security around it 100%.
For the people who don't really know what is the Khalistani issue, we don't really have it, like example, in the province of Quebec or other provinces. What did you uncover, and what do you understand of this movement?
That they're just a more violent Quebecois. That's being honest. What they do is, their whole idea and their ideology is that they want to have a separate country called Khalistan, separate from India, separate, as its own thing. And they will use whatever means necessary to make sure that happens. There is news. There is people who are allegedly connected to the likes of Jagmeet Singh, who are in a room with Jagmeet Singh, saying that, it's okay, we can use arms to then make sure that we have a separate Khalistan. And Jagmeet Singh is sitting in the same room saying nothing, which I guess, as the left would say, silence is violence.
I never agree with how revolutionary they were to come up with these ideas. They're very, I say, the gangster ideas, right? They were ultimate revolutionaries.
It is about sick spaces and sick institutions, and it endorses violence as a legitimate form of resistance. And one is about sovereignty explicitly and uncompromisingly. It endorses the superiority of our culture, our language, and our ideals. It is about sick spaces and sick institutions, and it endorses violence as a legitimate form of resistance and survival. to rebuild and to become Azad.
That comes down to also the point where it's a kind of a whole other conversation where you have, the mass immigration, you bring in all these different groups and extremist ideas, you all bring them into one spot and they start getting rowdy, they start talking, they start threatening people. Then that's what they're hoping for. That's right. Is that the YouTubers, the media get on top of them, get on their soapbox saying, we need more laws to suppress freedom of speech. And there's like, bing, bing, that's exactly what we wanted. And that is what we will likely see, and that's why we have to push back, be very cautious how we present these ideas and present and talk about them so that we don't give them that opportunity to break those types of laws.
How do you see the future of alternative media, but also yours?
I think it's going to take people who are willing to have a thick skin. That's all this is. Like, yeah, we are in a very divisive time. Like, obviously we're talking about the Khalistan issue here now, but every issue right now is very, very hot, very spicy, and very tough to kind of navigate. So if you're an alternative media, and you have to understand that you're gonna get some heat. It's gonna get weird. It's gonna get ugly at points. But that's the true test: is do you believe in this actually? Because if you don't, you're just a grift, then you'll fade off into the distance and you won't be heard from again. But the people that truly believe and stand in the face of fear and violence and threats, those are the ones who are true, and those are the ones aren't the grift.
Do you see a better future or worse future with Mark Carney?
It's a good question. Mark Carney's interesting because, yes, he's adopting a lot of the similar ideology of Trudeau, but at the end of the day, as much as people hate to admit it, he's still kind of like the business guy at heart. And we've already heard and seen that he's been having conversations with Modi, and Mark Carney's kind of quietly agreed that Khalistan is an issue and that it needs to be dealt with in Canada if they're going to do any trade with India, and if they want to increase that trade, because we have our minerals and things that we need to trade, and India wants it. We can make that happen. And I think Carney, because he's on this whole hate train of USA these days, he's looking for anybody but USA to trade with. So I think that's going to happen. And I think so. There's aspects of the extremism that's going to get worse, like the Hamas issue, as he says. Like he's kind of been pretty okay with that lately. But the Khalistan issue, because it's related to trade and tied to trade, he's going to make sure that goes away. So that's kind of what I'm saying. There's aspects of extremism that are going to get worse and aspects that are going to get better. I think it'll be a net negative, though, in general.
Because Mark Carney received a lot of heat recently when he said that Muslim values are Canadian values. How did you react to that?
It was a very political It was a very political statement, I realized, because what does that mean? Like, what do you add? Like, I'll be honest. Like, the religion of religion of Islam, there's good parts to it, and there's other parts that doesn't equate with Western values. What did you mean by that, though? But that's a very political answer. He can just say that and say, well, we're talking about the good things, but he wouldn't justify that. And so obviously the people that don't like Carney are going like, are you kidding me? This is nuts. And the other side's like, the left side's like, no, but like they have some good values and that they can bring here, And so this is what politicians do. They operate in the nuance and allow the division to continue with the two groups, and they just step aside and watch it happen. And that's what that was.
Really important conference like that, and no mainstream media showed up, but we are here to show you the other side of the story. So if you appreciate our work and you want to support us, please go over rebelfieldreports.com, chip in whatever you want, couple of bucks to help us to continue to show you the other side of the story, because I drove from Montreal to Toronto to show you. Thanks.